Birds are painting skies with song. Branches wake up stretching strong. Petals whisper as they fall. Spring is here and that's my call. Oh, the sun shines piercing through, chasing clouds to skies of blue. Laughter's drifting on the air. Spring begins so bright and fair. Fields dressed up in gold and green, every shade you've ever seen. Breezes blowing soft and light, turn the day from gray to bright. Oh, the sun shines piercing through, chasing clouds to skies of blue. Laughter's drifting on the air. Spring begins so bright and fair.
Good evening. Excuse me. I hope my mic isn't staticky because I hear it on my end. So if you're hearing it out there, please let me know because I don't know what's going on. Storms. That's it. Hello, Flash fan. I don't know how your favorite juror is. It's rainy and wet here, but it's not storming today. So I am happy about that because yikes. Thank you. I heard it before I started, and then right when I hit play, I heard it kind of do it again. So I was like, great, that's great. No, Flashman. Snow is literally a 4-letter word, but it is also a 4-letter word. If you know what I mean. I don't like it. I don't want it. Well, I can't say I don't like it. I don't like to be out in it. I like to look at it. Pictures are great. But that time should be, it's not over here yet, probably till May. It could snow. But I'm going to say it's not going to, and it's not allowed. How was your day? Waiting to see. Well, no, Flashman. I will, on everything. If I get 14 inches of snow, I am sending it all to your house in buckets by FedEx overnight, so it's still cold when it gets there. And then I'm going to tell your aunts to dump it on you while you're taking a nap. I don't want it. You don't want it? I don't want it? We'll send it to Adair. Hello, Adair. Hope your night is going quieter than last night went for you. I swear, Adair, I'm telling you, I live in a bubble. Everything went north of us and south of us. We are getting a lot of rain, and that's about it. I mean, like the river that we live, well, we don't live by it close enough for it to flood us, but it's going to flood and close one of the ways that my husband takes to work. So he's just going to have to go around the long way for a couple days. But other than that, we're good. Didn't have any hail. We didn't, we had a half a tree come down. But again, it's in the woods. Doesn't matter. Didn't fall on the fence. That's all that matters. But I know Adair had bad weather. Kelly had bad weather. I think Kelly's getting more bad weather. That's Wendy's. Where's the beef? Oh, I was watching. If you guys, I mean, he's got a gazillion subs, but if you guys don't watch Ryan Hall, it's kind of hard to watch him when you want to know what your weather is. But we were watching him for a long time last night because he just has stuff going on everywhere. Arkansas, Tennessee, Missouri, that just seems to be Illinois, the northern part of our state, like the same part that got hit Sunday, northern part of Indiana and southern part of Michigan, right there, that state line area was getting tornadoes again. And I don't remember really ever hearing about tornadoes up there, but they were happening Sunday and they were happening again last night. Indianapolis had a tornado, like in the area, Indianapolis area. Weird. but not in my little rural community. We are good. Hello, Carmen. Good to see you. Good you're awake. Good you're not at work. And it's good you're on a normal schedule of days. Congratulations, and I'm very happy for you. All right, so we are going to start back on with the, I keep wanting to call her Marshella Chidester. I've heard her pronounced several ways in this trial on day one so far. She is the woman who on April 20th of last year, which happens to also be Carmen's birthday. And I know it's 420. I know. She I stopped calling it. I had it phrased, the title as accident, but it was a crash. Can we just call it a crash? Because I don't really feel like it was an accident. I don't think she did it intentionally. It was a not intentional, really not intentional, unlike Sarah Boone, who was very intentional, allegedly. Crashed into a boat club in Michigan and unfortunately took the lives of 2 children who were there for a family friend's son's birthday party. Their mother was critically injured, and the mother's other son was also critically injured in the accident, as well as 15 others. We watched video. On day one, we saw video from the outside from a person that lived by the boat club, what his cameras caught of her flying through the parking lot, missing a telephone pole and a parking lot full of cars. Didn't miss the building. And then we saw inside the boat club. That was really, really hard to watch because those people are literally sitting in there enjoying an afternoon celebrating this little boy's birthday, and they have no idea what is coming. I always think it's Wisconsin too, Flash fan, and it's Michigan. I it's Michigan, but I think it's I think it's Flash fan. I think it's Wisconsin too all the time. Now you're making me second guess myself, but I'm sure it's Michigan because weird things happen in Wisconsin. We all know. Yo yo yee yo, Dill, how's it going? Long time no see. It really hasn't been. I bought my granddaughter a high chair that like my son and daughter-in-law have at their house. So Dill came over and put it together for me this evening, and she, well, Mad Dog, loves it and it's so cute. So I'm glad we got it. It's here. We can use it tomorrow. She's gonna be thrilled. Yeah, it does get confusing. Flashman could to research things, but for whatever reason, in my mind, this always happened in Wisconsin. Did not Michigan. Anyway, so day one, we saw the footage from inside, which was really difficult to watch. We heard from the mother whose child's birthday party it was. She feels horrible. None of us liked the defense attorney's opening because he kept repeating, the proofs will show. Like, I think the proof showed in her BAC. I don't know, allegedly. We haven't seen any of that yet. She's claiming that she had a seizure and that caused her to crash. And she claims that she had been in the hospitalized because of these seizures not long before this happened, but had been cleared to drive. I'm going to say no. Just as I have told you, and I know Carmen wouldn't care that I share this, but with her situation and when she had a seizure just out of the blue and then had another one, they had to figure out why. And she was not allowed to drive for 6 months until she had to be seizure free the entire 6 months. If she had any, I don't care if it was the last day before it was 6 months and she had a seizure on that night, her time started over. So, yes, Carmen, I can hear you say that. Bullshit. So, I don't believe that she was having seizures and then they were like, "You're good. You go drive now." I don't believe it. Don't believe it at all. Yes, and can we better have a tardy note? I'll let her know you say that when and if she gets here. Yep, took a year and a half to drive and work. It was a long time. It was a long time. I was glad it was over for you because I was scared you were going to get to the point where you never left your house again. Just because were getting uncomfortable leaving your house because you never did. They can, but that one I think is kind of cut and dry. I don't think there's room for you to go, you're safe. Everyone will move out of the way in case you seize out and can't drive your vehicle. Oh, and your foot mashes the pedal to the ground and the process. It's not going to happen. I don't believe that. So that was pretty much day one that we watched. We're going to split day 2 into 2 parts because it's almost 3 hours long. And so we're going to hear there's a deputy that starts off, and then there's a deputy will be I think just 2 witnesses today. He talks about taking her, I believe he talks about taking her to the hospital, getting her blood drawn, and that sort of fun stuff. And we do see some video from the hospital, I think, on this one. And I'm going to tell you, there's a guy. If tonight is the hospital video, there is a person in the hospital that is having. I don't know if he's on something, if it's a mental health issue. I don't know, but he keeps repeating something over and over and over and over and over and over. And it's more annoying than me just saying over and over and over. So we might fast forward through just a little bit of it because I tried to watch it with my son because he wanted to see some of this, and oh, it was rough. Yeah, so storms, flashing lights are Carmen's triggers for her seizures. But yeah, she has an dark tint on her windows. She has sunglasses that she wears if it's lightning outside. And yeah, she can't drive when it storms. They don't even like her to. They don't even let her go outside at work when it storms. Um, so yeah, I knew you wouldn't buy her defense, Carmen. That was a pretty annoying. Over. Are you airplane doing airplane a dare? All right, so we are starting off the day with the great Bill Clovis. This is the defense attorney right here. He's going to annoy you more. I'll just let you know that. I cannot put the closed captionings on because they are not closed captionings for this trial. They are closed captionings from I don't know what. And it does not follow this. It's not like they're off like they generally are and just saying something funny, but they got the words closed. It is it's bad. It's like a newscast or something. I don't know. I don't know what it says. Truckers say that. Roger. 10-4. They also say it on an airplane. Over. And I can't remember the other part of that. But it goes back and forth with over. Okay, here we go. All right, let me know if I did not break the internet. I thought maybe it was just the day that I saved these videos and they would fix them, but they haven't because I checked again today. 10-4, rubber duck. Don't start a convoy. I have this boosted all the way, so let me know if I need to turn it down, and I hope I don't blast any of your ears out, but I think if I remember last time, I had it boosted all the way too. So, all right, here we go finally.
Good morning, welcome back. You may be seated. Next witness.
Your Honor, do you want to address the left procedure on the record?
No.
Okay. We'll call Captain Don Block, Judge.
Hello, Bragg. Nice to see you at nighttime, even.
Sir.
Sure, I'll turn the closed captioning on for you just for a second so you can see what I'm talking about.
State your name and spell your last name, please.
John Debar, D-E, B as boy, A-R-R.
Thank you.
Thank you, Judge. Mr. Barr, how are you employed?
I'm employed with the Frenchtown Fire Department as a captain and paramedic.
How long have you been with the Frenchtown Fire Department?
Just over 20 years.
Any other experience as a first responder?
I started my career in Bedford Township, 1998 till 2004.
So all told, how long have you been a first responder?
Approximately 26 years.
You indicated that you are a paramedic.
Yes, sir.
How long have you been a paramedic?
Approximately 23 years.
And were you employed as a firefighter and a paramedic on April 20th of 2024?
Yes, sir.
How were you assigned on that day?
I was the shift commander in charge of the day's operations.
What, I guess for those of us that aren't in the industry, what does shift commander for days operation actually mean?
Excuse me, I'm responsible for the emergent, non-emergent response to all calls for service within the township, outside of the township, as well as general supervision associated with the personnel that are assigned to that platoon.
As a supervisor, do you respond to all the calls, or is it sort of depend on the nature of the call?
Yes, sir. Depends on the nature of the call. The higher priority calls are typically the incidents that I would respond to.
And when you say higher priorities, that mean more serious?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Serious in nature.
And were you dispatched to the Swan Boat Club on April 20th, 2024?
I was.
And do you recall what that dispatch was?
Yes, sir. Berlin Township Fire Department was dispatched to the Swan Boat Club on the report of a vehicle through the building with multiple persons injured on the ground, as well as a possible child entrapment.
Is Swan Boat Club in your jurisdiction?
No, sir, it is not.
You were brought in as extra help?
Yes, sir, we were.
And when you received that dispatch, do you recall where you were?
Yes, sir. I was at Station 1, getting ready to pull out of the parking lot to perform some general errands for the day.
And how did you respond to that dispatch?
I responded to my department issued vehicle with my emergency lights and siren activated to the scene, approximately 9 minutes.
Do you know about what time you arrived on scene?
I believe it would have been about 3:15.
Were there other first responders or law enforcement already there?
Yes, sir. I pulled in with Berlin Fire Department's first arriving unit, as well as the sergeant from the Monroe County Sheriff's Office.
So you were very early to the scene.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And can you please describe what you observed when you arrived at Swan Boat Club?
Once I parked my vehicle, I noticed the large hole in the side of the building. Numerous people on the exterior of the building looking for help, asking for help, as well as an individual being attended to on the right side of the building, or right side of the opening.
Do you know who that would be?
That would have been Zane Phillips.
And did you enter the boat club?
I did, sir.
How did you enter the boat club?
Through the opening that was created by the vehicle.
What did you see when you entered?
Equal amount of chaos on the inside. To my right were three individuals, two of them, two females sitting in the chair and one female lying on the floor.
Did you interact yourself with any of the injured victims?
No, sir. I was able to ascertain that they were conscious, alert, breathing, and not in need of immediate medical attention.
Is that because of your role as a supervisor?
Yes, sir. As a senior paramedic on scene and first arriving, my responsibilities typically would be to triage or categorize the nature of injuries associated with each victim and arrange for the transport of those victims as appropriate.
And so you were ultimately involved in determining who went by ambulance or life flight if necessary?
Yes, sir, I was.
Do you recall if anybody was life flighted that day?
Yes, sir. I believe that would have been Jaden Phillips.
That is the son that survived. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And nobody else was transported via life flight?
No, sir.
Is that because it was determined their injuries were not so severe that they needed that?
For the totality of the injuries, I believe we transported 7 total patients. 1 went by air ambulance. 2 air ambulances were requested at the scene. The crew of the initial aircraft assisted in advanced life support procedures with Zane in the back of a Frenchtown ambulance.
So you requested a second as you call it, air ambulance. I call it the life flight. I'll call it air ambulance. Sorry. You requested a second one, but that was ultimately not used.
Correct. The crew was utilized, but the aircraft was not.
Why was that not used?
Those individuals from that aircraft were tasked with assisting in the resuscitation efforts with Zane.
But he did not survive.
No, sir.
So he had deceased on the scene.
Yes, sir.
Do you know how many victims were transported by ambulance?
6 total by ground, 1 by air ambulance.
And do you know where those victims were sent? The ones that went. Do you know where the victim that was life flighted went? Where Jaden went?
Jaden was transported by aircraft to University of Michigan Mott's Children's Hospital.
Okay. And out of the road ambulances, where were those victims transported to?
Miss Dodds was transported by a Frenchtown ambulance to Corwell, Trenton. I believe it was Miss Stith was transported by a Huron Valley ambulance crew to Corwell, Trenton. And then I believe we had 2 additional patients, Miss Rath and Richards, were transported by a Rockwood ambulance to Wyandotte Hospital. And then Mr. Smothers was transported by a Monroe Community ambulance to Detroit Children's Hospital.
And were some victims able to transport themselves?
That is my understanding.
So you wouldn't have been involved in that. They would have gotten a ride or driven themselves.
That's correct, sir.
Okay. So you referenced where you saw people injured in there. Do you know specifically where Miss Leah Stith was located initially?
I believe Miss Stith was at the base of the bar, almost to the end on the right side if you were facing the bar from the hole that had been created in the side of the building, laying on her back, being attended to by a male individual.
And what about Mr. Edward Smothers? Do you know where he was initially located?
I believe Mr. Smothers was in the breezeway, more or less in the center of the breezeway, sitting in an upright position. He had a obvious deformity to his right leg. He had some injuries to his face that were bleeding.
When you say obvious deformity, are you indicating what appears to be a broken?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Diane Medina, do you know where Miss Medina was found?
I believe Miss Medina was just to the left of Miss Stith, just to the rear of the vehicle.
So that would also be along the bar?
Yes, sir, at the base of the bar.
And lastly, do you know where Jaden Phillips was located?
Jaden, is my understanding that he was thrown over the top of the bar and was located to the left, down below some of the debris.
Are you saying that Jaden was hit by the car and thrown actually over the bar, but was found underneath it or behind it?
That's correct, sir.
Okay. Were you involved in providing any aid?
So that must have been, if you remember watching the video, we couldn't figure out because there was 2 people behind the bar. One was a little kid who they put up onto the bar. And then there was like this movement in the debris behind the bar, but all you could just see was something moving. You couldn't tell what it was, but it was a person. We watched, I know we didn't on stream, but Gabby and I watched that video over and over, and I slowed it down. We were trying to figure out how those people, where they were to get behind the bar. And we watched, Flash Fan, you weren't here for day 1. We watched that last week. So her car was going so fast you couldn't see anybody going anywhere, like flying over the bar. But that's crazy because you can see him afterwards.
To Zane Phillips?
No, sir. The only interaction I had with him was my initial assessment of him as I was entering the building. And then when I exited the building, I did stop and check for a pulse on Zane.
And at that point, did he still have a pulse?
He did. However, it was weak and thready.
Do you know where Zane was originally located?
Hello, Zach.
I am not aware of where Zane originally was located.
Because he had already been extricated by
Yes,
that
sir.
time? Okay. And what about Alana Phillips? Do you know where she was located?
Miss Phillips, when I was triaging Mr. Smothers and Miss Dodds, it was made aware to me that Alana was somewhere in the vicinity of the vehicle. When I moved some of the debris, I was able to locate her at the corner of the door, just in front of the vehicle.
Were you able to remove her?
I was not.
Why is that?
Based on my training, education, and experience, I was able to determine that the injuries she had sustained were not compatible with life.
It was fatal.
Yes, sir.
Are you issued a camera that you wear daily?
No, sir.
All right. No further questions, Judge.
Cross. All right, may this witness be excused.
Yes, Judge.
Thank you. Next witness, Judge People call Deputy Stephen Schmidt.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this matter before the court shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Sir.
Okay, thank you. Good morning. Deputy, would you state your name and spell your last name for the record, please?
Deputy Stephen Schmidt, Steven Schmidt.
Thank you. Ms. Rowland. Thank you, Judge. Deputy, what do you do for a living?
I'm a police officer for the Monroe County Sheriff's Office.
And how long have you worked for the Monroe County Sheriff's Office?
Approximately 5 years.
Okay, did you have any law enforcement jobs before that?
I did.
And what was that?
I worked for the Dundee Police Department for approximately 2.5 years.
Did you have any law enforcement jobs before that?
I did.
What was that?
I worked for the Riverview Police Department for just a short amount of time, approximately 9 months.
Okay, so you've been a law enforcement officer just over 8 years?
Around there.
Okay. And were you working for the Sheriff's Department on April 20th?
I was.
And what was your assignment back then?
I was assigned to road patrol.
Okay. Since then, you've been promoted to a specialized division within the Sheriff's Office?
Yes.
So you're no longer a road patrol deputy?
No, I'm assigned to the Detective Bureau.
And currently, you have all the training, certification, and educations necessary to be a certified police officer in the state of Michigan?
I do.
And all those are up to date as of now?
Yes.
And they were up to date on April 20th?
Yes, sir.
And what was your assignment on April 20th?
I was assigned to road patrol, District 1, which would be North County.
Okay. And in road patrol, you respond to calls for service?
Yes. If somebody calls, we go.
Did you receive a call for service that brought you here to testify today?
I did.
And what was the nature of that call?
It was for a vehicular crash at the Swan Boat Club.
And did you respond?
I did.
What did you see when you arrived?
Upon arrival, it was pure chaos when I got there. There were people running around, injured people, people lying on the ground. One of my first observations was a large hole in the side of the boat club where a vehicle had driven through it. Upon walking up, I saw a small child who he didn't appear to be breathing.
Where was he located?
In the grass, just outside of the hole in the wall in the side of the boat club.
So as you're assessing the scene, what do you do to orient yourself?
Well, the first thing I tried to do was just kind of find a place wherever I could help. That being with first aid as best as I could.
And where did you wind up within the overall scene?
So, Conservation Officer Ingersoll, he was in the breezeway area between the bar and almost like the foyer type area. He was asking for help. He was with a small child who had a significant leg injury.
Okay. Was there anybody else in the breezeway area when you went in?
There was a middle-aged female. She was sitting up against the wall.
And what was her state?
She was in and out of consciousness from what I remember.
And so at least initially when you arrived on scene, you just tried to assist with first aid of the victims as you could see needed.
Yes,
Eventually, did you make contact with Sergeant Bomia?
I did.
And what was his position on the scene in regards to the sheriff's office?
So he was the shift supervisor at the time.
So at the time, was he the commanding officer on scene, for lack of a better term?
Yes, he was the officer in charge.
Did he give you any direction?
He did. He advised me that he had the driver of the vehicle seated in the rear of his patrol vehicle. And at that time, he asked me if I would start an investigation for the crash with the driver.
Okay. Did he give you any direction in what kind of investigation to perform?
Yes, there were some cues for a possible intoxicated driver. So that was the investigation that I conducted.
Okay. So at this point, you've been a law enforcement officer for 8 years.
Correct.
All of them road patrol.
Correct.
Had you conducted an OWI investigation prior to that day?
I have.
About how many?
Personally, somewhere in the range of about 50 myself. Plus, I've also trained other new deputies and new officers and been part of their OWI operating while intoxicating investigations, as well as assisting other officers at the sheriff's office.
So do you receive specialized training specifically to OWI investigations at the police academy?
We do.
And as part of being a police officer, do you take updates to that training throughout the course of your employment?
Yes, we do.
And you did as being a police officer for those 8 years?
Yes, sir.
Did you receive any specialized training beyond the academy and those subsequent educations in OWI investigation?
Yes. So I attended ARIDE training, or Advanced Roadside Impaired Driving training, in approximately August of 2022.
Okay. And if you could just explain to the jury briefly what that is outside of its name.
So it's just a more specialized training. They teach you some different techniques for sobrieties, besides the main three that are recognized by National Highway Traffic Safety Administration as being like the three primary SFSTs, or sobriety tests.
Okay. So I know the term sobriety is SFST, sobriety test. Explain to the jury just a little bit what a sobriety test is, what its purpose is.
So a sobriety test is essentially a divided attention test. Somebody that's under the influence of alcohol or narcotics, they might not be able to focus on instructions, plus then at the same time being able to actually conduct the test.
So you use the term SFST, or standardized field sobriety test.
Correct.
What are those in the state of Michigan?
So in the state of Michigan, there are three. The first being the horizontal gaze nystagmus, or what's an eye test. The second being it's called one leg stand. Essentially, you stand on either foot of choosing. You lift the other leg slightly off the ground with your hands at your sides, and you're asked to count numbers. The third being walk and turn. Walk and turn, essentially you walk a certain steps down, you take a small series of steps to turn yourself around, and then you walk back to the starting point.
And those are the standardized field sobriety tests in Michigan
Correct.
that all officers are trained on.
Correct.
Specifically as to the eye test, the horizontal gaze nystagmus, what are you taught to look for on that test?
So you're taught to look for what's called nystagmus, or an involuntary jerk of your pupils. Somebody who is under the influence, they will tend to, somebody that's sober, your eyes will roll smoothly across your head. Somebody who's under the influence, when they're focusing on the cue, which a pen or the tip of your finger, you'll actually see that their pupils actually jerk from side to side, which shows an impairment.
When conducting these tests, you're not just looking at the results of the test, are you?
No.
What else are you looking at?
You're looking for other cues for intoxication, whether it's bloodshot, watery eyes, whether their inability to stand on their own or keep balance, if they're slurring their speech, their inability to follow simple directions, etc.
So with this training, you approach Sergeant Bomia's vehicle. Is that right?
Correct.
What do you find when you get there?
Well, the defendant was seated in the rear of Sergeant Bomia's vehicle. So that's where I located her at, was in the rear of his patrol vehicle.
What did you do once you located her?
Once I located her, I began to talk to her, ask what her name is, ask if she's injured, just basic questions.
What are the things you're looking for just in asking the basic questions?
Well, immediately you're looking for signs of intoxication, whether they have, like I said, bloodshot, watery eyes. Do they smell like alcohol or intoxicants? Are their clothes disheveled? Have they vomited or urinated on themselves? Just basic signs like that.
So these visual basic signs that you look for in an OWI investigation, did you observe any of them in the defendant that day?
Yes.
Which ones?
So at that time, I could smell the odor of intoxicants coming from her, bloodshot, watery eyes, and then later on, inability to keep balance.
Okay. So you had a brief conversation with her as she's seated in the back of the patrol vehicle.
Correct.
And then at some point you make a determination you're going to attempt standardized field sobriety testing.
I do. I asked her if she'd be willing to consent to take some sobriety tests, and she agreed to do so.
Okay. And what did you do with the defendant then?
I had her exit the patrol vehicle. Upon exiting the patrol vehicle, she was having problems with balance. So she used my arm to kind of hold herself up while I walked her to the rear of the patrol vehicle. Before that, during our medical questionnaire, I was informed that she does have neuropathy in her hands and feet.
And what's your understanding of the result of that?
The understanding of neuropathy?
Yes.
I would object. He's not a medical professional. It's a foundation. He knows what neuropathy is.
That's why I asked him what his understanding of it is. I'm not asking for an expert opinion. I'm asking with what his understanding of it is, how did that affect how he treated the defendant?
I think that makes sense. He's not giving an expert opinion. The objection is overruled.
And as far as in my experience of somebody with neuropathy, it's something that's neurological, numbing in their hands or feet or legs.
How does that impact the way you conduct your OWI investigation as it pertains to sobriety tests?
So I think immediately at that time that took the one leg stand and the walk and turn kind of off the table for me. I didn't feel like she'd be in any condition to try to perform those tests at that time.
And that's because she had self-reported neuropathy and you had witnessed her exhibiting a lack of ability to balance.
Correct.
Even if someone hadn't reported a medical condition, with that lack of balance, how would you approach the standardized field sobriety tests?
In her condition that she was that day.
Yes, or just in general?
So always whenever I have conducted a OWI investigation, I think one of the most important things is to see if they're able to conduct any of the physical tests. If they're able to, no prior injuries or anything that would prohibit them from doing so, then I think that would be sufficient to complete those tests.
So if someone's experiencing a lack of balance, would you ask them to do the one leg stand?
Most likely not.
Why not?
Their safety is paramount for me. I don't want them falling over or tripping on themselves or injuring themselves any further.
And what about the walk and turn?
The walk and turn is the same way. If somebody's having a hard time walking, I don't want to make them walk 8 steps down, take a turn, and then walk 8 steps back towards me. The last thing I want is for somebody to fall into traffic and injure themselves.
But that's not the case with the HGN, right? With the horizontal gaze nystagmus? Correct. Did you attempt to conduct that on the defendant?
I did.
And how did that work out?
I tried a few different times. The defendant was not able to focus on the stimulus, which was my finger. So I wasn't able to actually complete that test.
What do you mean she wasn't able to focus?
So when I held my finger up in front of her face, I was moving it back and forth, and she was failing to follow my finger. She was just staring directly at me.
So she wasn't. What do you tell someone with the stimulus when you're conducting an HGN?
I tell them to follow it with their eyes, and their eyes only don't move their head.
Okay. And was she able to follow it with her eyes?
No.
Did she turn her head one way or the other to try to follow it?
At some point, she was trying to use her head to follow it, but ultimately, she was unable to complete the test.
Okay. You talk about things you look for in conducting sobriety tests. Her behavior in that test, is that any way significant to you with your experience and training?
It could be, yes.
And how?
In prior experiences, I've had people that were impaired. They were unable to follow the stimulus while conducting that test. Just because you can't follow the stimulus or complete the test doesn't mean that that's not a sign of intoxication or impairment.
And that's part of following instructions too, is that correct?
Yes.
So you were only able to attempt one standardized field sobriety test. Are there any other sobriety tests you give in the event that somebody's unable to conduct the physical portions?
Yes. Typically, if somebody's unable to complete the physical portions, I'll go with a mental one, somebody that it's a test that they're able to do without doing anything physically.
Did you do so in this case?
I did.
And what test did you administer?
So I had the defendant recite the alphabet A to Z without singing.
Was she able to do that?
She was able to complete that test.
Okay. And did you do any other cognitive tests?
I did.
And what was that?
I did a number counting test. I gave her instructions. I asked her to start from 100 and count backwards to 88.
Was she able to effectuate that test?
She was not.
What were the results of that test?
Would I be able to refresh myself with
Yes.
those results? Okay. So as far as the results of that test, she was able to count backwards from 100 back to 91, and then back up to 100. And then from there, she skipped over 88 and then was counting in the 70s and began descending in the 70s from 78 to 72.
Okay. And the initial instruction was to count backwards from 100 to 88.
Correct.
At that point, did you do anything else in regards to a roadside OWI investigation?
No, that concluded the investigation.
What was, in your training and experience, what did you believe existed at that time?
Well, I believe that there was probable cause for impairment to make an arrest for operating while intoxicated at that time.
And what did you do with the defendant once you made that determination?
So I placed her in handcuffs, advised her she was under arrest, did handcuff her in front because earlier she advised that she had a wrist injury from the crash. And I didn't really want to handcuff her behind her back and strain herself or hurt herself any further. So I handcuffed her in front, and then she was placed in the rear of my patrol vehicle.
Okay. And that concluded your role in the OWI investigation at the scene?
At the scene, correct.
Did you remain on scene after that?
I did.
And what did you do?
At that time, I was just trying to do whatever I could to try to alleviate some of the duties from anybody that was there. Like I said before, it was a very chaotic situation. There were medical personnel running around everywhere, and I just wanted to make sure that, if anything was needed at that time, that I could be there and assist.
Okay. At some point, did you interact with Deputy Karina of the Sheriff's Department?
I did.
And what was the nature of that interaction?
So Deputy Karina wanted to do some further investigation of the whole incident with the defendant.
Deputy Karina wanted to continue the OWI investigation?
Correct.
And he did so?
Correct.
And you stood by while that happened?
I did.
Okay. And also during that time, you dealt with other folks at the scene?
I did.
Witnesses? Is that correct?
Yes.
And other police officers?
Yes.
At some
Christine, I'm really sorry that you can't get into your old channel and that you had to start over because you just had been past 600. Like you were flying by. I hope you didn't have to start completely over. And I hope nobody did anything to you maliciously. That's a horrible thing to do. But also, Carmen, if you're still here, can you, Christine, if you'll put the, I know I'm kind of waiting for you to respond, but there's a delay. So I'm not trying to, you had to make a new one. If you put the name, put the name in, I'll have Carmen, or Flash Fan, whoever's here, whoever mod is here, should be one at least, because I have a ton. Drop a link in the chat so we can go over there and support you, because I'm really sorry. You've worked really hard and you were making such good progress. And I really am sorry, Christine. But you'll get it back. You'll get it back. Okay, Flashman's you. Carmen doesn't know how to do that. I don't know where Gabby is, Adair. I have not talked to her today. I hope she's okay, though. All right. Thank you, Flashman. Yes. And everybody go over and show Christine some love, because that kind of makes me mad that somebody did that to her, because she's on here day in, day out, every day. Oh, I do like the new name, Christine. Christine's Courtroom. There's Gabby. Look at that, Adair. You say her name 3 times, and here she is. Also, Gabby, Adair said you should have a note for being tardy. Thank you, Gabby, for putting Christine's link. Christine, I will definitely be over there, and I will be subbing to you. And I sincerely wish you all the best, and that please, everyone here, please go subscribe to her, because she deserves it. She, like I said, she puts a lot of time in, and that's Christine, I don't even know what to say about that, because that's horrible. if people don't like somebody, just keep going. You don't have to watch them. You certainly don't need to say anything about them to them. You're not going to tell somebody something about them that they already don't know. You're just going to make them feel bad. If that's your goal, then, well, that's not nice. I don't know how else to say it. But you'll be fine, Christine. Yep, ignore the haters. It's hard to do sometimes, I understand. But that's the best advice. And trust me, I have to tell myself that all the time. Family is always first, Gabby. No need to apologize. We were kind of worried about you more than like, I just want to make sure you were okay. People who make fun of others are low lives. That's your dog, Carmen. I need to take a hard look in the mirror. Don't let them get to you. Rise above and show them what you're made of. 100%. Bri can get into your channel? Huh. We'll have to check it out. Because it showed up on mine today that you were live, Christine. I'm not... Hopefully somebody didn't take it. Well, thank you, Christine. I appreciate that. Welcome again to the jury pool. And thank you so much. And I hope everything gets worked out for you. And I believe 100% that it will, because good people have good things happen to them. And we will all be there to support you.
Point, were you told to leave the scene?
I was.
And who directed you to do that?
That would have been Sergeant Bomia.
And what instruction did he give you?
He asked me to take the defendant to the hospital so we can do the blood draw for the OWI investigation.
So just explain.
Oops. Okay, Gabby. Gabby accidentally put the old one up. Here's the new link to Christine's courtroom. Her other one is just her name. So remember to go to Christine's courtroom. But wait, didn't you? So we got it. We will go there. Thanks, Gabby. I won't stop anymore for a minute or two.
To the jury, roughly, what does that mean?
So after somebody's placed under arrest for operating while intoxicated, there's a form that we have to read them. It's their chemical test. There's a DI 177, which is the state form. That's what it's named. And then DI 93. So the 177 is consent. So they give consent for chemical tests. The DI 93 would be they don't give consent. On the back of the paperwork, there's instructions. I read her the instructions, asked her if she'd be willing to take a chemical test, which at that time would be a blood draw, and then she would be transported to the hospital to get that blood draw conducted.
Okay. And did you in fact transport her to the hospital?
I did.
Thank you, Bri.
At this time, were you aware that this crash had fatalities?
I was semi-aware, but not to the full extent.
Okay. By the time you got to the hospital, were you aware?
Yes.
Okay. Does the sheriff's office have a policy on chemical testing when there's a fatal crash?
Yes. It's in best judgment to make sure that instead of doing a breath test, a blood draw is done.
And what about as it pertains to a consent blood draw?
I believe with the consent blood draw at that time, it would have been best practice to complete a search warrant for her blood regardless.
All right. And did you do so?
I did.
And what's involved, Deputy, in completing a search warrant for a blood draw at the hospital?
So we have a online form that we essentially fill out. That's our
Your Honor, I would object to these areas are all questions of law that the court decides regarding the search.
I'm not proffering it for its legality. I'm proffering it to explain the time frame between the crash and the blood draw.
I think the objection is overruled. I think what he's telling us is just the basic procedure, and I think that is appropriate.
Your Honor, if I may, the procedure I totally respect. It's just any comments or thank you.
We won't get into it. So you have an online form.
Correct. We have an online form that's on our laptops. We fill all the form out. It's essentially everything I kind of just went over, what happened, the day, time, results of sobrieties, what sobrieties were conducted. And then after that, I have to contact whoever's the on-call prosecutor. They have to agree that there's enough probable cause there for the search warrant to be signed. And then I have to contact the on-call magistrate and have the actual search warrant signed and then sent back to me.
And April 20th, 2024 is a Saturday, is that correct?
Correct.
So you're dealing with all folks who are not at work.
Correct.
That's why you're using the term on call, right?
Yes, sir. Everybody is not working during that time. So
At least everybody who you would need for a search warrant.
correct.
So any idea how long all that took, Deputy?
From the time of the crash to the time of the blood draw.
Well, just the time to prepare the search warrant and get it signed.
I don't know specifically, but it kind of is a time consuming process.
Okay. And where do you typically in these types of situations do all that?
It's all done in the vehicle. I don't have access on any of the computers at the hospital to do anything like that. So it has to be done outside of the emergency room at the hospital.
Okay. Is it only upon your completion of those documents that you then enter the hospital?
Yes.
And is that what happened in this case?
Yes.
So you go to the scene, you investigate, you leave with the defendant, drive to the hospital, complete your paperwork. At this point, you finally get into the physical hospital.
Correct.
You take the defendant in with you.
Yes.
And were there any other law enforcement officers there?
Deputy Flint was there with me as well.
At this point, when you enter the hospital with the defendant, is this the first interaction the hospital has with you and the defendant? Do
Yeah.
they know you're coming?
I don't believe they knew I was coming at that time. I don't recall though.
So once you enter the hospital, what's the procedure once you arrive in these types of cases?
So the procedure, anytime we take somebody in the hospital, they need to be ran through registration to get them registered to the hospital. And then after that, then whoever's working the front desk there in the back of the ER, they assign us where.
He is not thrilled. He is the officer that did the field sobriety test on our defendant and then takes her to the hospital. I think we're going to see that video. Also, Zach, I tried to respond to your message. I said, that wasn't nice, but they kind of deserved it. And YouTube said, no, you cannot send that. Could have said worse. I've seen it in my own chat. Gabby, he got teary-eyed when he was talking about the little boy outside because he knew he wasn't breathing. He didn't know he was gone. But when men cry, I'm sorry. I can't stand it. I can't stand it. I just can't stand it. Like, it breaks my heart. I know, right? Rude. YouTube. So rude. But yeah, he had to deal with her. And absolutely, Carmen, I'm with you. especially when officers cry. Like, don't, because you guys see some stuff. So if it makes you tear up, I can't do it. Then that tells me just how bad it really is. It breaks my heart, Flash Fan. I mean, in certain situations, like if a guy was walking down the street and he had a double decker ice cream cone, 2 dips, and the top one fell off and he started crying, I would be like, I'll walk by myself from now on. Like, don't cry about that. But seriously, like serious stuff like this. I don't like it. It makes me just tears at my heartstrings. And that's because you're a man. Whoops. Sorry, Karen. Because your guys are taught from a young age to not cry. I'm not saying you should cry at everything, but it's okay to show your emotions, good or bad. Happy or sad. Like, it's fine. We all have them. Can't hide them. It's okay. See, Zach, you're not helping. I've seen my husband cry like 3 times, and I thought I was just gonna like just melt into the floor because it just broke my heart. You get 3 cries? Okay. Zach, I don't believe you. I think you got a big old soft heart that just well, I know what you said the first day we watched this trial. She wouldn't have made it out of that boat club. Just saying. Zach probably is crying right now.
Where to go or assign us a room. In most of these cases, we go to the back. There's a seclusion room back there, which is away from everybody that's in the general area of the emergency room. So that's where I took her that day.
Is that where you were directed to take her?
Yes.
And you say the defendant was registered at the hospital. Is that common in a OWI investigation, blood draw?
Yes.
Okay. Was there any other reason the defendant would have been registered in the hospital that day?
Well, she had some injuries from the crash, specifically her wrist. And I needed to get that attended to before we could ever even think about leaving the hospital.
So you're not just there for a blood draw, but you're there for treatment for the defendant's injury.
Correct.
And you advise the hospital of that.
Yes.
Do you know why Deputy Flint was present also?
I believe Sergeant Bomia wanted another officer there, security reasons, and just to make sure we had 2 sets of eyes on everything. So everything was all secure.
Is that typical in an OWI blood draw?
Sometimes, but not typically.
So in your 50 plus OWI investigations, have you ever been present for a blood draw before?
I have.
About how many times?
Probably the majority of those.
So is there a specialized procedure mandated by the state of Michigan and the Michigan State Police in conducting a blood draw for an OWI?
There is.
And how does that procedure start?
So there is paperwork that the hospital gives to me that needs to be filled out. One of them being the consent to draw form. I believe there's another piece of paper as well that I have to fill out there. And then after I do that, that's when I get a Michigan State Police blood kit.
So the initial paperwork you have to fill out, that has nothing to do with the legality of the draw. That's just for the hospital.
Correct. That's just for their own records and mandating.
And the Michigan State Police blood draw kit, what is that?
So it is it's a cardboard box that has a seal on it, like a sticker seal. And on the inside, there's contents of paperwork. There's the actual blood vial tubes that are contained in the box. And then there's a bag for at the end. That's where the actual tubes that come in the cardboard, they go into that bag, and then everything gets sealed into the box. And then you get another sticker, security sticker that you put on the outside.
So just by naming it a Michigan State Police blood draw kit, that kind of begs the question. But do you know who provides these kits and what their nature is across the state?
So we, as the sheriff's office, we keep our blood kits at the hospital.
So in other words, so you get them from the hospital.
Correct.
Do you, the sheriff's department, provide them to the hospital?
Yes.
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 And who provides them to the sheriff's department?
I would guess somebody from command, but I'm not sure.
So are these standardized across the state? Do you know?
They are. Everybody in the state of Michigan uses the same kit.
Okay. So you obtain the kit in this instance from the emergency room, from the hospital,
Correct.
and they store them for the sheriff's office there.
Yes.
And that's what you did in this case. Is that typical?
Yes.
You don't keep the kits in your car?
We do not.
Okay.
Nope, Gabby, he didn't even cross-examine the first witness. He just said nothing, which is fine with me. Because I'll be honest with you, I like this judge so far. We're only on the day 2. And I like these prosecutors so far. I still not don't like the defense attorney. Don't care for him. And it's not because he's a defense attorney. I just didn't care for him.
When you obtained a kit in this case, was the kit sealed?
It was.
Did it appear to be in good order?
It did.
No dents, scratches, holes?
Nothing.
Did it appear typical of the kits you've seen in the past?
Yes.
Once you obtain the kit, well, in fact, this is just a demonstrative exhibit. Show this to you.
That's right, Zach.
What is that?
This is a Michigan State Police blood kit.
And is that, at least so far, typical of what you would handle in every OWI blood draw investigation?
Yes.
And so once you obtain it from the hospital, what's the first thing you do?
Well, the first step is to open it up. The kits have a integrity seal that's already on it. This is how all kits come. Can I open it?
Sure.
Okay.
Did he bring a pocket knife into the courtroom asking for a friend? Didn't think anything like that was allowed. Not that he's going to do anything. Just like click. Okay. Flashman, only if you're talking about the one with this much of her hair crimped. And even then, no.
As you do that, Deputy, that day, did you break the seal on the kit?
No, Deputy Flint did that day.
Did he do that in your presence?
He did.
Did he open the box or simply cut the seal?
I believe he took the paperwork out and laid it on the table.
Okay. So if you could show the jury then what's inside the kit.
So inside of the kit, sorry, I'm trying to talk in the microphone here and show you. So inside of the kit, this is essentially what it looks like when you open it up. There's a blue piece of paper. It's an insert. It basically tells you the contents of the kit, what's inside of it. There are these two little plastic vials, which are used for urine sample collection. And in my almost 8 years of law enforcement, I've never collected urine on a chemical test. Also inside of the box, there are the blood tubes. They come in this little piece of cardboard. Take the blood tube out. I don't know if you guys can see that. There's like a little bit of like a powdery type agent in the bottom of the tube. That's essentially to keep the blood fresh. There's two tubes. They come like this. Also in the kit is the alcohol and drug determination sheet. This is carbon copy paperwork. There's 3 copies. It says on the bottom, the white copy, submit with the kit, the yellow copy, retained by the agency. So they're just like this. Sorry, there's 2 copies, not 3. Carbon copy. One goes with the kit, one gets retained by the agency.
And that's paperwork you have to fill out on the scene.
Correct.
What else is in the kit, Deputy?
There are labels for the specimens. So these labels get filled out by me, and then they get affixed to the side of the blood tubes by the phlebotomist after the draw. Also is a iodine prep pad. This is no alcohol. This is what gets used on the site when the phlebotomist does the draw, just so there's no questions about if there's going to be alcohol used on that site.
So just to back up to clarify that. So that's an iodine wipe that's included in the kit.
Correct.
And that you give that to the person who does the blood draw, the phlebotomist or the nurse.
Yes, sir.
And so that's so that the requirement is met that when the site is sterilized, there's no alcohol used.
Yes, sir.
Okay. What else is in the kit, Deputy?
There is a plastic bag with a big warning label on it. The reason for the big warning label is, as you can see, there is a small piece of almost like cloth in the bag. The reason for this being in the bag is if one of these blood tubes breaks while in this bag, this actual piece of cloth will absorb the blood and it can actually still be tested by the lab. So it's important that this actual piece actually gets left in there.
And what's the big warning label?
So the big warning label, it says important place blood tube holder containing filled blood tubes along with filled specimen bottles inside Ziploc bag, then squeeze out all excess air in closed bag. Note, do not remove liquid absorbing sheet.
Is there any other paperwork in the kit?
There is a shipping seal for when you're done.
Okay.
You can box everything back up.
All right. So initially, well, wait to box it back
All right.
up. So initially, when you arrive, Deputy Flint opens the kit, begins to unpack the paperwork. So
Correct.
Specifically, the blood alcohol determination sheet.
Correct.
And
Just in my own defense of Flashman and Gabby, I was not asleep. And in fact, there was no sleep to be had last night because it was storming. Even though the worst of it wasn't hitting my house, It was hitting other places that my husband had to know about the effects of the storm. So his phone rang from about 10:30 last night. I got up finally at about 3:50 this morning because there was just no point. There was no there was just no more point in trying to sleep. So I could have called all you, woke y'all up, said, let's chat. Next time I'll ring you too. Just had to defend myself. Me and my perfect hair. That's right. No more gray up there. That was my appointment. It was important too.
What do you do with the paperwork?
So at that time, I take the paperwork and I start filling it out.
And where are you physically in the hospital as you're doing this?
So we are in the back of the emergency room, in front of the seclusion room.
Okay. And you just have the kit unpacked on a table outside the seclusion room?
Correct.
And so at this point, you're waiting on someone to come do the blood draw?
Yes.
Okay. What happens then?
We wait for the phlebotomist to actually come down from upstairs. And at that time, we get moved to one of the actual emergency beds because the nurses and the doctor, they're aware that she actually needs some medical treatment for her wrist and from just the high collision impact of the crash. So we get moved to an emergency room. The phlebotomist meets us at the emergency room and then conducts the blood draw.
Okay. So at some point, you have to pack up the kit and move it to another room.
Correct.
So at that point, the paperwork is filled out and you're just waiting.
Correct.
So you used the demonstrative and you showed the jury what's all in the kit, but the specific kit that you had that day, is there any notable differences between it and the one you unpacked here in court today?
No, all the contents were the same.
Okay. Having done dozens of these before, was there anything about that kit that was dissimilar or incongruous to the kits you've seen before?
No, it was the same as any other kit I've seen.
Specifically as to the tubes, did you have an opportunity to inspect those?
I did take a look at them. Came just like this.
Okay. So the tubes appeared intact?
Everything was intact and everything was there.
And they appeared to have the seals intact and the preservatives in them?
Correct.
So you had mentioned about the labels that come to go on the tubes. What at the site is done with those?
Hey, Ronnie. Good to see you. Hope you're all doing well. Hope your husband's continuing to get better. And thank you for showing some love and popping in to say hello. I'm glad just to see your face back and chat again. It's too long. Very. Cut myself off. I was going to make a comment about Flashman wanting bread, but then I decided not to. And then whatever.
So at the site, they're filled out by me. And then I typically allow the phlebotomist to fill in the time, just so all the times are consistent with everything.
And so those tubes, those are just glass tubes. They don't have labels on them?
They do have something on them, but I'm going to be honest with you, I don't really know what it means. Just some
like a small label?
Yeah, just a small, it's got some medical type language on there.
Is that something you can fill out or just something that's already pre-printed?
That's just already on there.
already pre-printed instructions or warnings or something like that?
Yeah. Potassium fluoride,
All right. And so,
sodium fluoride, sorry.
no problem. And so you fill out the labels and affix them.
Correct.
And you did that in this case?
Correct.
And what kind of information goes on the label?
The label is the subject's name. It has the date. It has the name of the person that's actually doing the draw, and then it has the officer's name, the time, and the date.
So you fill out your portion of it and allow the phlebotomist to complete their portion, their name and the time?
Correct.
And that's what happened in this case?
Yes.
Once the phlebotomist arrived in this case, what did you do with her initially?
Well, provided her with the paperwork and just showed her where I needed her signature, where for her to sign.
Does she have her own hospital paperwork?
She does.
And you assisted her with filling that out?
Yes.
Because some of that you get a copy of and some of it the hospital gets a copy of?
Correct. Her name needs to go on that paperwork.
So at some point, do you give the tubes from the kit to the phlebotomist?
I do.
And then you stay with her?
Yes.
You stay present during the blood draw?
Yes.
And she conducts her portion of the blood draw?
Correct.
Were you able to observe her label the tubes once she completed the draw?
Yes.
What time was the draw completed?
I believe it was shortly after 6:30 that day.
As to the actual draw itself, did you observe anything out of the ordinary from other blood draws you've attended?
No.
Deputy, what's a FSD 93 form?
An FSD 93. Would that be the alcohol determination form?
If that's the number at the top, I know it by its number.
Yes, that would be this form.
Okay, so that's the paperwork you fill out and put back in the.
Correct. This goes back in the box. One copy, and then the other copy I retain.
All right. And those are standardized throughout the state of Michigan.
Correct.
They're provided in every kit.
Yes.
So once the phlebotomist completes the draw, you see her label the tubes. Is that correct?
Correct.
Do you see her do anything else as it pertains to the draw on the tubes?
She inverted the tubes multiple times.
And what's the purpose of that?
I believe it has something to do with shaking the sediment that's in the tube before placing it back in the holder.
The cardboard holder?
Correct.
At some point, do you receive the tubes back from her?
I do.
And you have an opportunity to inspect them again?
I do.
And they still look in order? No scratches, dents, breaks?
They look the same to me as when I got them,
Except for the blood inside.
except for the blood.
What do you do then with the kit?
And then take the tubes that are packaged just like this. They go back. They go in the plastic bag that's provided along with that little absorbing sheet. Everything goes back into the kit. The paperwork, iodine pad was already used, so that doesn't go back in.
What about the labels? Are they on the tubes at this point?
They are. They provide 2 sets of labels, so 2 are for urine samples, 2 are for blood samples.
Okay.
And then when everything's back in the kit, then the kit gets closed. Then the shipping seal gets affixed to the other side here.
And that's the opposite side of where the initial, you can seal it up for me, Deputy.
Okay.
And so at this point, it's a little bit after 6:30, you're still at the hospital.
Correct.
This crash was at 3:01.
Correct.
What do you do with the kit for the remainder of the time you're at the hospital?
Hang on to it in my possession.
How much longer were you at the hospital, do you know?
I believe until shortly after 9 p.m.
Why so long?
Well, the defendant needed to get medical attention on her wrist. She also got x-rays on her head and neck. She got her wrist set a few different times. So it took a while for all that to happen before we could get discharged from the hospital.
You eventually got discharged a little after 9 p.m.
Correct.
At that point, do you proceed to the sheriff's office?
I do.
And defendant's handed off to some other deputy, is that correct?
Correct.
Are you still in possession of the blood kit at that time?
I am.
What's the sheriff's department policy for those once you get back to the office with one?
So these blood kits get placed into an evidence locker at the sheriff's office, just like any other piece of evidence. There's a wall at the sheriff's office. There's approximately 40 or so evidence lockers. You put the piece of property in there, you close the door. There's a key that's already sticking out of the locker, so you know that that locker's open. You can put something in there. I close it, turn the key, and then there's a key slot, and the only person that has access at that time would be who's in charge of our evidence. So it would have been Detective Martin at that time.
Okay. And you did that all with this blood kit?
Correct.
Do you know about what time you would have done that?
I'm not entirely sure.
What time did you leave for the night after a long shift?
Somewhere around 10 or 11, somewhere around there.
So is it fair to say you would have put this in the evidence locker close to immediately after getting back to the sheriff's office?
Yes, as soon as I got there, the defendant was handed off to another deputy. I then proceeded to park the vehicle, go upstairs, place the kit in evidence, and then start on my paperwork.
Okay. Deputy, are you assigned a body-worn camera?
I am.
And was that active that day on April 20th, 2024?
It was.
And was all of this that we've talked about recorded on the body-worn camera?
It was.
Were there any exceptions to the quality or nature of the video?
Yes, at some points the video was muted, but it was still on.
Okay, why was it muted?
There were times during the course of this incident where I was talking to other officers and the camera was muted. It's a mistake of my own. It should have been audio recording the entire time, but it doesn't take away from the fact that the whole incident was recorded with video.
Okay. At some point, do you, later on in the video, do you zip up your coat over the video?
Yes.
Okay. And that's toward the end of the video, probably past 8 o'clock.
Yes, that's probably somewhere around the medical treatment portion.
Okay. So, Judge, we've broken up Deputy Schmidt's body camera into 4 parts, both for time concerns, relevance, and other issues surrounding admissibility. Exhibit 6A is Deputy Schmidt's time at the scene. 6B, we believe right now is inadmissible, but may become admissible later. And 6C and D document the blood draw. So at this time, I would just move to proper 6D. But have A, C, and D admitted.
Yes, that's what he's saying.
But I'm also going to move to admit A and C without the blank. They're as I described, but I don't think it has a lot of value in the midst of the trial to show them.
Okay. All right, A and C are admitted. D may be shown. Thank you.
Carmen, because you're showing your age, in the movie Karate Kid, Mr. Miyagi calls Daniel Daniel's son. So that's why you are Carmen's son. Yes, I can't remember if he shows body cam of her in the backseat of the patrol car first. But the hospital, again, it has a, I don't know what's wrong with I don't know what's wrong with the guy, but you're gonna hate me by the time it's over. I'm sorry. I'll just say that. Somebody else said something, and I don't remember. I was gonna say something to it, but I don't know. It's been a long day. All right, it's this dude here. I don't know what's happening, but and I can't even really tell what he's saying. He just keeps saying it, and it seems to be at the same intervals. It's been a very long day. It started even earlier than normal. Also, yeah, speaking of the box, Adair, that was a very long explanation of it. But you reminded me what I was going to say. One, those little vials that he said are for urine specimens, please tell me you don't have to hit that thing. I mean, if you're a guy, you can probably do it. But the other thing, the accident happened at 3 p.m. They didn't take the blood draw till between 6 and 6:30. That's a long time. Her levels are probably falling during that time. I wonder what she was at 3 when it happened. No worries there. Will not. But this guy, I'm just telling you, he's gonna get on your nerves.
What was your last name? M-U-N-E-L. Thank you. Yeah. I guess you'll just have to sign your name, the time, and your blood. Whatever time you got, just close. permission of the person around you. No, I think that's the name of the person they're around. I was just asking to confirm if that form is there. No good deed goes unpunished. Yeah, that right.
Is it CHIDESTER?
Yes. And this is the. Yeah, that's right. Sorry. Oh, yeah.
It is sad, Carmen. I'm not making fun of him. It's just going to continue this whole.
That should be on the table. What's that? Yeah. Nice, yeah. Sorry.
No, not you. You hit me. Yeah, like I did.
I'm just kind of. Hold your person. Wrong. Steve, that's me. I thought I had mentioned. That's actually here.
Me too. You couldn't be driving, right?
There you are. Walk to the word.
Yeah, good one. So,
I feel like I'm kind of just in the middle.
yeah, okay.
I'm good. It's good to hear. It's good to hear. What's that? What are you looking for? What's the dot right now? This number, let me see which one is on your person's. Yeah. Just so you know, she's just gonna use an iodine swab, just no alcohol or anything. I hate getting my blow down. I hate getting my blow down. I can't even look. No. I can't even look. Are we doing? Look here, dead body marker.
I kind of always say that though.
You do? Okay, let's just see then.
Yes, Gabby,
2 weeks of my semester.
to give you a break. They are at the hospital. That's just some random guy in the emergency room. They're just there to get her blood, and he's there for whatever he's there for. Anytime I hear that too, Adair. I hear when Gabby puts up anything in chat and he's doing it, I can hear that too. But also, Carmen, if you put that in as your alarm code, I think that would honestly work better than intruder alert, because they'd be like, what the heck did I just walk into? And run away. Like a lot of people are right now. Yeah. Well, he's calling Beetlejuice. Well, you better stop it. I can't handle that and Beetlejuice. It sounds like wee woo. I don't hear that one though. That was the only one that Gabby put up that I didn't hear. Colin Y or Code Y. I hear calling Y. Or why do? All right. I'm gonna stop analyzing it.
Thank you so much. Appreciate you.
I muted it for you guys, but no, that's the guy. That's the guy. I muted it for you guys for just for a second. Yes, make that your ringtone or not.
So Deputy, as to that, I can't not ask, what was that noise throughout that video?
There was somebody in the ER room next to us.
Just another patient
Yes.
vocalizing.
Yes.
And at one point you asked the front desk, who's the doc? What
Yes.
do you mean by that?
Whoever the doctor in charge of the unit would have been at that time.
Is that because you have to put the supervising physician into your paperwork?
Yes, that needs to go on the search warrant.
And all that, as well as the other portions of your body camera, those are fair and accurate representations of what you saw that day?
Yes,
You had an opportunity to review them
I did.
and review their edits that have been being submitted in court today.
Yes.
Move for admission of A, C, and D.
A and C have already been admitted. As to D, pupil 6D is admitted.
And I just note that the foundation for 6B is laid, should it become admissible without recalling Deputy Schmidt.
Okay. No further questions, Judge. Cross.
My blessings go out to the medical profession who can put up with that kind of noise and racket all night. Deputy, it's detective, right?
Correct.
Okay, I'm sorry.
That's all right.
My name is Bill Clovis, and I represent Marshella Chidester. And you're aware of that, right?
Yes.
We met before, back June 27th of last year, before Judge Brown, during the preliminary examination, correct?
Correct.
And I asked you at that time if you shook, you shaken the vials of blood with the preservative that's at the bottom. I believe you described it as white powder. And your answer, would you agree, was no, you never shook them?
Correct.
Okay. And when you noted in one of the reports or whatever, or checklists that are given to you to fill out, you filled out the checklist with regard to the boxes of the draw, or did somebody else fill those out?
What do you
Did
mean?
you fill out any forms at all concerning the blood draw?
Yes, the hospital forms and
Okay. And then you signed it as the officer in charge right then. Is that correct?
I probably did.
Okay. All right. And are you aware that these vials of blood, that white powdery substance is a preservative to preserve, and so it would not ferment the blood?
As far as what I know, I'm not a medical professional, but I can agree to that.
And thank you for being honest.
You're welcome.
Okay. I'm not a doctor either. So it's your understanding that there's a preservative in there and it's got to be shaken. Am I correct?
Yes.
Okay. All right. And did you ever see, because I just watched the videotape, that's why I got up, my eyes aren't the best to watch it close. Did you ever see anybody, you didn't, you said, did you see anybody shake it like this?
The phlebotomist inverted them.
And you used the word inverted, that she took them and she inverted them, correct? That's what it showed, at least I could
Correct.
see.
She took them completely upside down.
It looked like there wasn't multiple times. Would you agree with that?
Well, she did directly after and then before putting them back in the
Did it look like
cardboard.
before she put them away that she turned them like this and then put them in there?
Possibly.
I know you're not a medical person, but you like to follow procedure, correct?
Correct.
And the procedure you took part in is having the blood drawn, preserving it, and then having it sent to the Michigan State Police toxicology lab, correct?
Correct.
Now, would you agree that if the preservative is not properly mixed, that would cause fermentation?
Objection.
And if you don't know,
Deputy Schmidt's not qualified to answer that.
Response.
I'll withdraw. Thank you, Judge. Now, while you're at the hospital, before you went to the hospital with my client, where was she for those about 3.5 hours?
From the time from when we left the scene until like the hospital, you mean?
Did you stop at the police station or sheriff's station at all? Did you go straight from the scene at Swan Boat Club to the hospital?
No, the scene to the hospital.
Okay. And how long were you at the hospital with Marshella Chidester?
A long time.
Would you say at least 2 hours or 3 hours?
Somewhere around there. Yeah.
Okay. Did you
Yes.
mark when you arrived at the hospital?
It's our protocol. Whenever we leave somewhere, we tell dispatch. Where we arrive somewhere, we tell dispatch.
But there was none of the documents. It's okay. You didn't mark down anywhere on the documents, or there's nowhere to mark on the documents?
No, I did not mark anywhere.
Why did it take so long to get this blood draw that we watched a few minutes ago?
So obviously going back to the scene after she was in custody, first off, I wanted to make sure that all of my fellow officers that were on scene, all the medical personnel were taken care of. They didn't need any help and I could leave.
No, I'm sorry.
Oh.
What I meant was once you got to the hospital,
Mm-hmm.
You were at the hospital for 2-3 hours.
Correct.
Okay, why didn't you get a blood test right then and there when you came in?
So I needed to fill out the paperwork for the search warrant.
You did that while you were at the hospital?
Yes, I was seated in my vehicle.
Okay. I'm just, of course, we weren't there, so that's why I'm
Fair
asking
enough.
so many questions to try to put this back together again. When you had replied it was 2-3 hours, I'm looking at short tape and it looks like that's when you just walked right in.
No, we were there for a few hours.
Okay, all right, both in your patrol car and then inside the hospital?
Yes, sir.
And was my client getting any treatment for foot or arms injuries?
She did after the blood draw was completed.
At the hospital, right?
Correct.
Okay, all right. Now, after you arrived and you were going to get to the hospital and start filling out the paperwork or the search warrant paperwork or affidavit in support, why didn't you go back to the sheriff's office and do, commonly known as or formerly known as a data master breathalyzer that you usually do for people suspected of drunk driving? Why wouldn't you take her for that too?
For this case, with the serious injuries that were potentially had there, my command wanted to make sure that we did a blood draw.
Okay. But why wouldn't you do the breathalyzer? Would you say you do breathalyzer about 90% of the time of people suspicion of drinking and driving?
No, a majority of my chemical tests are blood.
Okay. Is it because people refuse the breathalyzer?
Sometimes they refuse, sometimes they're not compliant. There's variable circumstances that it could be.
But if you read that you said DI 177, am I correct?
Correct.
If you read that, it says, take a breathalyzer, a urine test, or blood test, or else you may or you will lose your license. Is that correct? But that's
Correct.
right to read.
Somewhere
in a synopsis.
In a synopsis.
All right. And you read that to her?
Correct.
And she said, yes, I'll take whatever test or whatever you wanted her to do?
Yes.
Okay. So you didn't file with the Secretary of State a refusal or any of that stuff?
No.
She was very cooperative, correct?
Yes, she was
And
cooperative.
she was understanding what you were asking her and saying to her, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And so again, why wouldn't you take her first?
Oh my gosh, my ears might be bleeding. Thank you, Bri. And Ronnie got the gifted membership. So congratulations, Ronnie. And Bri's already telling you what to do with your gift. That might not be exactly true, Gabby. But I do feel like a rebel when I do it. Oh no. Nope. I am never that rebellious, Adair. I always put the cart back in the cart holder because I don't want it hitting my car or anyone else's. Nope, I can't not do it. I have to. This guy is driving me crazy. This is that questions that you ask when you have nothing to ask. And let me just keep asking over and over and over. I'd rather listen to the guy that was just rambling whatever he was rambling. And that was rough.
For the breathalyzer to blow into that takes 2 samples, I believe, and then take her for blood. I don't know if he fully answered it, Judge. I'm just going to ask it this
I'm
one
gonna
last time.
sustain the objection. He did answer. He said the policy
did.
of fatalities was to take the blood test.
On the way home today.
Now, after you received the blood,
I did, Carmen, because they lowered the speed limit. You know the story. You can't not. I did get road rage today, and it's not my fault. It's because they lowered the speed limit 10 miles an hour, less than what it was, to move traffic. And then after they did that, they had 3 accidents. I was like, idiots. And now nobody knows what speed limit we can go because the cops are like, we're not going to give anybody any tickets yet, but we don't know when the yet runs out. So yeah, I went 10 over today. And then I was just I was on the phone with Carmen. I'm like, I don't have my foot on the gas pedal and my car will not even coast to 5 over. That's how it's so slow. I don't know what I did when the snake bit you, Carmen. I know what I didn't do, but I can't say it on YouTube because I'd get in trouble. Feeding Mad Dog comes first, and all you missed was somebody in the emergency room saying something that none of us could understand. And we feel bad, and Carmen's going to make it her intruder alert. Dare. I mean, Flashman, I was looking at it there. I'm imagining AJ telling someone, get out the car, I'll hit you and your cookies. No. What I did do was to the person that pulled out in front of me today after I had already been pulled in front of by a semi who then decided he was going to make his turn no matter what. I was like, whatever, don't care. And then the guy that pulled out in front of me after I got around him, when I was turning off the highway, a car, like, I don't know how they didn't crash, pulled out in front of him, and he had slam on his brakes. I'm glad they didn't crash. But I told Carmen's like, what's wrong? And I was like, I just saw Karma. I just saw Karma pull out in front of this truck, and he deserved every bit of it. And that car was going slow. So, but they didn't crash, and I didn't want them to. But there was nobody behind me. He could have waited for me to pass him. He didn't have to pull out in front of me. And there was lots of cars behind me because that guy was going slow. And that's why I don't normally go home that way. Yeah, you guys tell all those you want. I'm out.
And you put it in this, what do you call that?
Michigan State Police blood kit.
Blood kit. All right. Once you put it back in the blood kit box, did you refrigerate it?
No.
Do you, now this camera that's muted, it wasn't muted during the last film that we watched, correct?
I think there might have been parts where it was at points.
Was it muted at the time you were at the scene?
It was.
Why would you mute your body camera?
At that time, I was having some conversations with other officers.
And you didn't want anyone to know what you were saying?
I don't think he finished the.
Oh, I'm sorry. Please go ahead.
Go ahead and finish.
I was having private conversations with other officers at the scene.
And you didn't want anybody to hear what those private conversations were, correct?
Well, there's no policy against muting our cameras.
Oh, so there's no policy with the Monroe County Sheriff that you can mute or shut off your camera anytime you want?
Not shut off. While we're still having citizen contact, we still have to have our cameras on.
So you can mute anytime you feel that's proper, or anytime that you want to mute it, you can mute it.
A camera can be muted, yes. But it still stays on.
The camera still stays on, but it's muted.
Correct.
And how do you mute this body camera?
There's a button on the side that you hold down and it mutes it.
So it's something of an intentional act.
Yes.
And you were, at the time that this took place, that you were investigating, were you an officer, was it 7 or 8 years?
Just under 8 years. My 8-year mark will be May of this year.
And you were an officer for 5 years for the city of Riverview?
No, about 8 to 9 months at the city of Riverview.
And that was during your probation period of time of 12 months?
Correct.
And is there any reason why you left or were terminated after 9 months?
No, actually, I left on my own accord there.
And was that an agreement that you would sign papers that you were leaving on your own?
Yes.
Now, as to these sobriety tests that you spoke of earlier, there's the national highway ones, correct? That are
Correct.
approved, right?
Yes.
Okay. Are you familiar at all with any law or Court of Appeal laws that says that the dexterity test, the finger or pencil test in front of the eye, is not as accurate?
Objection. Calls
Okay,
for the
I'll
legal
withdraw.
opinion.
I'll withdraw.
It's a test that he didn't testify that he gave.
I'll withdraw. Okay. You gave the alphabet test, correct?
Correct.
And the purpose of the alphabet test is see if somebody, their sobriety and level of sobriety, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And my client completed the alphabet test completely, clearly, understandably, with no problem, correct?
Correct.
Okay. You noted that in the report, correct?
Correct.
And was your camera on to record, was the voice on or was it muted at that time?
It was on. It was muted at that time.
It was what?
It was muted at that
The
time.
video was on, but it was muted.
Correct.
So any documentation to back up that she completed the alphabet, we don't have that other than your testimony, correct?
Correct. And my
Okay. Now, the numbers, did you ask her, my client, to count from 1 to 100?
no.
Okay. You asked her to count backwards from 100, was it to 88?
Yes.
Is that a yes?
Yes. Sorry.
Okay. And you said the first time she counted 100 to what?
91.
Okay. And could you understand her?
At that time, yes.
Okay. She wasn't slurring, correct?
Not that I recall.
Okay. And that would be something you put down in a report as a trained officer, correct? Observations.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And I presume your report is honest, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And now you knew that my client was just involved in a major collision, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And you knew from investigating when you got there that my client went through the wall and went about 25 feet into the location of the Swan Boat Club, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Now, do you think that would shake anybody up a little bit of going?
Objection calls for speculation. Response.
Have you, I'll withdraw that and then lay a foundation.
Okay.
Thank you. You've investigated many accidents, correct?
Correct.
As a patrol officer, right?
Yes.
Okay. And you've investigated major collisions, I presume, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And after somebody, in your experience, after somebody has been in a major collision or mid collision or major, do they seem shaken up at all?
Yes. At times I do.
Do you consider this a major collision?
Yes.
Now, you said that you didn't give my client the one leg stand test. is that when you ask somebody that you're investigating to raise their one leg off the ground, maybe 5-6 inches, and hold it and count maybe 1,000, 2,000 to 9 or 10?
Correct. It's up to 30, but it's the same.
And sometimes you say, keep counting until I tell you to stop.
Correct.
And you didn't give that based upon her neuropathy?
Correct. I just didn't feel she was safe to be able to complete that test without potentially falling and hurting herself.
You have no proof that my client doesn't have neuropathy, correct? You have no.
Objection, it's a double negative. You
Well-
can ask that question directly.
He wants a double
I'll-
negative.
I'll withdraw it. Thank you, Judge. Do you have any proof that she has neuropathy?
At that time,
Yes.
at that time, I did not.
Do you now believe she has neuropathy?
I haven't seen her since. I don't know.
Have you seen her walk today?
Today, I have not seen her walk.
Now, the walk and turn. Excuse me. Is that when you ask a person that you're investigating, believing they may have consumed alcohol, to put their heel to the front of their toe of their shoe and walk like that, one behind the other, for 9 steps?
Correct.
Okay. And then you ask them to turn around and then do 9 steps back, correct?
Yes, to take a small series of steps and get themselves turned around and then 9 back towards the start.
Okay. And you didn't ask my client to take that because of her safety, correct?
Correct.
And you don't want her falling down, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And she was able to understand all of your directions, correct?
Yes.
She told you what her name was, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Did she or did you know that she was a former Commodore of the boat club?
No, I had no idea.
Now, when you took her to the hospital, was she unruly in your car at all?
No.
Do you have cameras that sort of flip around and record somebody in the back?
Unfortunately, our county police cars, we don't have in-vehicle cameras.
You don't have dash cams?
No. We just have the body cameras that are affixed to us.
Okay. So she was not unruly in the back seat of the car, correct, while you're transporting her?
She was cooperative.
Okay. So she was making a lot of noise, screaming, yelling, none of that craziness, right?
No,
Okay. Was she falling asleep in the back seat?
I don't recall.
Okay. Was she vomiting in the back seat?
No,
Did she vomit in the hospital?
no,
You had mentioned that earlier, and I'm just asking about it. Did she urinate on herself in the patrol car?
no.
And you said that's one other thing that you look at is vomiting, urination on their clothes or in their clothes. Is that
Absolutely.
correct? Okay, fine. And the higher the alleged blood alcohol content is, the more people do these things. Would you agree? Such as urinate, their bodily, control is not there.
Well, I think everybody has their own alcohol tolerance up to a point.
But would you agree from all of your arrests that you've done or investigations that usually urination, vomiting, it occurs when somebody's ingested a lot of alcohol than just a little bit?
Yes.
How long did it take you to obtain a search warrant from the time you arrived and put her in the back seat of the car?
I don't recall the exact amount of time.
Okay. In your past history as a patrol officer, when you pull somebody over
Mhm.
of suspicion of drunk driving and you want to get a search warrant done, are they usually done like within an hour?
Yeah, I would say for the most part that's pretty accurate.
And this was 6:30 in the evening, early evening, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And the magistrate or judge is usually at home and it's sent to him or her, correct?
Correct.
And then they review it, they sign it, and then they send it back to you,
Correct, via email.
and then you give it to the hospital.
Yes.
And sometimes that's done within, would you say 45 minutes, an hour?
Yeah, sometimes that's about right.
Is some of the statements in the affidavit sort of fill in the blank?
Yes.
When you approach my client inside the vehicle, did you see a cane that she uses for walking?
I don't recall.
Do you know if the airbags went off?
I don't recall.
Do you think airbags that go off are a collision into a wall in your experience of patrol officer investigating accidents? Do you think that running into a wall and going 25 feet inside a building, that type of a collision that you've investigated, that sometimes people don't have all their faculties immediately afterwards?
Objection calls for speculation.
In his history, Your Honor, you know, he's investigated accidents.
I'll take it.
Thank you.
Yes.
Now, when you arrived at the scene, it was some confusion going on.
You're late, Pedaltown, but you're a nice break from this line of questioning. Good to see you. I'm just like, ugh, this defense attorney. How many times do you think he's investigated a car running through a wall and going 25 feet? I hope not many. But we're going to talk about it, I guess. For not very much longer, thankfully.
You agree? I mean, we saw tapes earlier yesterday. It looked.
Hey, Daddy Shortnut. Good to see you. Oop. He talks like Lally. Ugh. Make me like him even less. Thanks. Hey, Daddy Shortnuts. How are you? Oh, Gabby. These questions. I know he's just doing his job and I'm the first one to defend it, but you carpooled with Puddletown. Are you two the same? Are you two the same person? You guys haven't missed much. He's quite the road rager. This is the officer that took her, our defendant, the car crasher, into the boat club. He took her to, well, he did field sobriety test on her and then took her to the hospital to get her blood drawn. He has said two things. That one, Bri was right. He did bring it up and kind of create that. He opened that can of worms himself. At least he didn't turn his body cam off, but he did mute it. I don't know what he was talking about. So he said he was having a private conversation. I'm sure it had nothing to do with this. It would be different to me if he turned it off. Or I'm sure, not saying it didn't have anything to do with what we're watching. Probably did not have anything to do with the outcome of what we're watching. Yeah, it's pretty bad. But the only video we saw today was from the emergency room. That was awful so bad because there's just a person in there repeating something that none of us know what it was. And they had better audio than the people we were trying to listen to, the officer and the person taking her blood. I'm not even going to try to say that word this time of day. The other thing that I don't like, I wish he would have given her at least a portable breath test at the scene. He may not have had one, but they did not do her blood draw until about 3 to 3.5 hours after the accident. And I'm no expert, but it's like her levels are probably falling at that point. So who knows where she was at the actual time of the crash. I said earlier I wasn't going to call it an accident anymore. Not saying it was not saying intentional, but I just can't call it an accident. YouTube clown car, you guys. When he chatters in a Yugo, that's a nightmare, you two. Whew. Give me chills. And then they have not given us her level. They have not told us the results of the blood draw. At this point, Puddletown. But yeah, when we watched day 1 of this last Thursday, and it has video of her driving on there's like from outside cameras, and she goes down the road through the parking lot of the boat club. This is in Michigan, of the boat club, and misses a telephone pole barely, which is kind of too bad. Misses every parked car, and then goes through the boat club 25 feet, as this guy has said repeatedly. But she hit 2 children, and they did not make it. They were brother and sister, and then the mom was in left in critical condition, and the mom's other son he had to be taken by a Lifeline helicopter. He had broken femur and a bunch of other injuries, and he's still not completely healed now. And that was almost a year ago. This happened on April 20th last year. I don't want to do that, Flashman, and I'd rather be frolicking on the beach than drinking urine with that dude. Ugh. Hey, we do whatever we got to do around here, Puddletown. Well, now you've just made me feel bad, Puddletown. I'm sorry, Flashman. I don't know about her husband, but he wasn't there that day. And Puddletown, she ran when the building she hit was hosting a kid's birthday party at the time. So it's just all around bad. And the video is bad. It's not like gory. It's just hard to watch because you know what happens, and it just sucks because that woman lost 2 of her 3 kids. See you, Dill. Tell Mad Dog I'll see her tomorrow. Flashman has not joined the dark side. Don't say that. They'll never allow him to come back here. Play.
I don't mean to use the word craziness, but it was crazy what was going on, right? There were tables all over. There's a vehicle inside. People are injured. 2 little children are severely injured or critically injured. It was chaos.
It was the most chaotic scene of my almost 8-year career.
Of your career. And I'm sorry you had to go through that.
It's okay.
You were involved in it.
And I'm sorry you just asked if 2 little children were critically injured. One was unalive. One passed away on impact, and the other passed away shortly thereafter. 15 other adults were injured. I don't like this guy.
So do you agree that the containers, were those little like red Solo cups that they serve, or do they serve something else with those? In other words, were there any containers that looked like at one time they had fluid in it, and they're all over the place, food's everywhere, there's containers to drink?
Are you talking about, sorry, are you talking about,
Sorry, I gotta object. One, it's assuming facts, not in evidence. I don't know what Mr. Close is talking.
You know, Judge,
Hang on.
I'll withdraw.
Finish his objection.
I was gonna say, I'll
You're gonna
withdraw.
withdraw, then
Okay.
on we go.
All right, thank you. When you arrived on the scene of the Swan Boat Club, and it was shortly after 3 o'clock, correct?
correct,
On April 20th, 24.
correct.
Okay. Was everything in disarray?
From what I saw, yes,
You just talked about, it's probably the most horrific
yes,
scene you've seen.
correct.
And was there food and cups all over?
So I never actually made it into the bar area.
How about where the tables were?
I don't even recall where the tables were in that building.
Because it was so chaotic or so messy, for lack of a better word.
Yes,
And I'm just going by, the prosecutor showed some tapes yesterday and trying to refresh or, talk about it verbally. Did you ask the hospital while you were there with this blood kit to take additional blood from my client and have it tested by the hospital?
no, I did not.
And then what was the date that this kit expires?
I do not recall.
Okay. So you don't know if it was expired or not, correct?
Well, if the hospital had it there, then it would have been up to date.
Based upon the hospital has it there, so they do no wrong, it's got to be up to date. Is that correct?
No, that's not what,
Objection calls for speculation.
Well, he just said,
I think he testified he doesn't know, so that answers the question.
I don't have any other questions, Judge.
Thank
Very well.
goodness.
Redirect.
thank you, sir.
Thank you, Judge. So, Deputy, I'm going to show you this form. This is just another FSD 93, like the one you packed into the kit. Is that identical to the same type of form?
Yes, this is the exact same form.
Okay. So that's a carbon pack, but it's also a two-sided form. Is that right?
Correct.
So on the front is information you fill out. What's on the back?
So the back is the form instructions for the FSD 093, which is this form.
Okay. And toward the middle of the page, it says guidelines.
Yes,
And it says guide.
Objection, Your Honor, this isn't part of the original examination by him. He's going outside. He's already had his chance to ask these questions.
Response.
This is in response to Mr. Clovis's going down the road of, did you shake the vials?
All right, I'll accept the answer.
So there's instructions that are titled to the medical professional physician. Is that right?
correct.
Do any of those pertain to what to do with the preservative in the vials?
Yes.
Which one?
Mm,
I believe it's number 2 or 3.
Which one? 2 or
So 2 is draw 2 tubes of venous blood from subject in presence of a law enforcement officer and tell the subject in the officer's presence that no alcohol was used in sterilizing the skin surface, needle or syringe.
And what about the next one?
3 is slowly invert blood sample tubes enough times to distribute the sodium fluoride, potassium oxalate preservative.
And that's the instructions for that on the state form. Is that right?
Correct.
So
Yes.
it's not shake the tube 3 times, or you're ordered to shake the tube, or there's any statute that requires you to do that, right?
No.
I'm sorry, into the mic.
I'm really sorry. The mic is no, there's not.
Okay. And then that's not something you would do anyway. That's something the phlebotomist would do.
Correct. I've never done that once on a OWI blood draw.
Okay. And you saw the phlebotomist do it in this case.
Yes.
So you're satisfied that the guidelines on the back of that form were complied with?
Objection, Your Honor, that's for the jury.
No, it's not a legal conclusion or a factual conclusion. It's, he has to make sure those guidelines are complied with before he leaves the hospital
I
and
think
seals
the
the kit.
question is he satisfied? I'll overrule the objection and take the answer whether he's satisfied.
I was satisfied with the conclusion of that.
Thank you. So as to the timelines Mr. Clovis was getting into, once you arrive at the hospital and check in, do you have any authority over those folks?
No.
Is it fair to say that you are at the mercy of the hospital as to when that draw gets completed?
Yes.
Were you that day?
Yes.
Mr. Clovis asked you if you asked for the hospital to draw her blood and independently test it for you. Have you ever done that in your 9-year career?
No, not in my 8-year career. I have not.
Okay. Do you know if the hospital will do that for you?
I don't know.
Do you know of any officer who has ever asked the hospital to do that and had it be successful?
Objection as to relevancy, what other officers do.
I'm going to sustain that. I think we made it clear.
Fair enough. As to your body camera deputy, throughout the course of the day, you muted and unmuted this, I think you testified to. Is that right?
Yes.
And I think you indicated under cross-exam with Mr. Clovis that that was to have private conversations. Is that correct?
Yes.
When you say that, what generally do you mean by a private conversation?
Well, in terms of that scene there, more or less trying to figure out from the other officers what I need to do, what they're currently doing, things that I don't believe are necessarily relevant to the public hearing them.
And so those are more, so what you're saying is those are more, not administrative, but course of conduct type of conversations with fellow officers.
Correct.
So when you say private conversation, you're not talking about each other's significant others at the scene.
No, we're talking about the scene and what needs to be done and where we're at with it.
Mr. Clovis asked you if in a crash like that, you think somebody would get quote unquote shaken up by the crash. Did the defendant appear shaken up to the crash, shaken up by the crash to you?
Besides the injuries that she sustained, there was no other indication that she was shaken up from the crash.
Mr. Clovis also asked you as to the sobriety testing and things like that, if the defendant followed all of your instructions. As to the horizontal gaze nystagmus, did she follow all of your instructions?
She was not able to focus on my stimuli, which is part of the instructions.
Okay. Did she turn her head to attempt to follow your finger?
Yes.
Is that part of the instructions?
Yes.
Did she follow that part?
No.
No further redirect, Judge. Thank you.
Recross.
Now, you stated earlier, officer, that my client had a test. Was it a CAT scan?
Objection. No, he didn't.
Okay. I'll withdraw. That she came in for head injuries at all?
I'm sorry. I love this prosecutor. No, he didn't. And then when Tommy said something else and he's like, no. I love it. Ugh, he deserves it all. Paddletown, which person are you talking about should read books to make people fall asleep? The witness, the judge, the Prosecutor, please do not say the defense attorney, because I would have to, like, I don't know what I'd do, but I wouldn't listen. That's what I would do. Both of them. Both of them who? The judge, the witness, or the prosecutor? The lawyer and the witness. Got it. I agree. Not this, the other, the prosecutor. Please, not the defense attorney. No.
Correct.
Mention that?
Yes.
Remember that? Okay. And then you asked her to do what type of test, and she wasn't able to follow it. What type of test was that?
An eye test?
Right. And she wasn't able to totally focus clearly after the accident, correct?
She was
Do that
not.
test?
I'm sorry, what?
To do that test, she wasn't able to clearly focus to do that test right after the accident.
Objection calls for speculation.
Was she able to do it? I mean, that's pretty.
That's a fair question. Go ahead.
She wasn't able to complete the test.
Okay. I don't have any other questions.
All right, may this witness
Before
be
he's satisfied, he can step down. We ask that he is subpoenaed.
Sorry.
He's still active.
Okay.
He's called for
all right, which means you cannot stay in the court. You're all set.
Thank you, sir.
You may be seated. Welcome back.
Get out of the courtroom right now. Yep. We have been so spoiled with the audio in the Warnos trial because it's been really good. That nothing measures up. And this is not the best audio, but it's the best video. The best audio, you can't see the video. It's like they're in the dark. And also, there's closed captions on here, but I played them earlier, and they're talking about weather. They're not even talking about this trial. I'm not sure what's happening with them. I've tried them several times thinking that they would fix them, but they did not. So, whatever. But there's still an hour of this one, so that's why I'm going to do this in 2 parts because I'm tired. It was a very long night last night with all the weather and all the things that came along with it, and I've been up since about 10 till 4. Well, I've been up a lot longer than that, but that's when I just decided to call it good and get up for the day. So it's just not past my bedtime. I just want to go to bed. But again, I like that prosecutor. I like the judge. And I think we can see where the defense is going to try to go here. He's not said anything about a seizure at all to this witness who he was asking kind of medical questions about. And she does, I believe them when they say she has neuropathy. She's on gabapentin, which is medication for that. So, okay, got it. But he didn't ask him if she said to him that I do not, and I am not a boomer. He said nothing to him about did she appear like maybe she was out of it, like maybe she had just had a seizure. No, he didn't say anything about that. He's going to, I think, go down the path of there was something wrong with the blood draw because he asked way too many questions about that and what happened with that and why things were done or not done or whatever. I am sleep talking, Haley Mouse. I probably do it better than normal talking. Pelltown. I do not get up in the night. Thank you very much. And I don't do that either. And I don't go to sleep at 4. Goodness gracious. Flashman, I would think you already have and are good at it. That's my that's my guess. You just don't know it. You don't remember. You're gonna wake up one of these days and let's see, one of your favorite foods, fried chicken. You talk about it all the time. It's gonna be Popeyes, and you're gonna have it in your hand, and it's gonna be in your mouth, and you're gonna wake up and you're gonna wonder how that got there, and it's gonna be hilarious. Except we won't be there to see. You're gonna be in bed before me today. Well, better hurry up. You wish that was your excuse for eating at night. I was asleep. Well, Ambien used to do that. Maybe it still does. I don't know. Gabby, no apologies necessary. We were just hoping you were okay. It's 8 p.m. Visiting hours are over. That is correct. I don't care if you're talking about the hospital or not. That's correct at my house. I'm going to try. I'm going to try to go to sleep. We have no weather. So that's good. We have rain, but that's okay. Ah, Zach, she is forgiven. I already forgave her. Maybe back in the day, but I'll never tell. Gotta keep some things a secret. All right. So we will do part 2 of this next Thursday. HAP making it rain. Yep. Oh, did I messed up. It wasn't the rain that falls from the sky. That wasn't what I was supposed to be doing. Hey, I can't help you were late. I can't help it. It's only like 5 p.m. when you're where you live. That means I got up like dang, it was like just after midnight your time. That is so sad. That is so sad. And I don't even know what I was saying. Where are the well, this is a night stream. Just I don't know what your schedule is, Puddletown. I started at 5:30 my time, but I don't know when are you on swing shift again. And it's hard for me. I can't do weekends, Puddletown. I have my granddaughter all day Saturday and all day Friday, so that's why I'm not here. Haven't been here on Fridays. I know. And it's like 8:08 here. Yes, that's Flash Fan. That is exactly. I let you do that. I know he's on Chrissy time. You too, Ronnie. It's so good to see you. We will be continuing to do this. So anyway, we will be doing part 2 next Thursday. And unless something weird happens and we get some extra time, I don't think I'm going to give any spoilers on this one. If you watch day 1, we just need to get to May 15th and then we'll see what happens. There's her special day is May 15th. If you get what I'm saying. If you watched the first day or seen any of the video, there's no spoilers here. This is an easy one. See you, Bri. Have a good night. Take care. Stay safe. That's her special day, Flash Fan. If you that is the defendant's special day. The proofs are gonna finally prove. We'll see what happens. Me too, Haley Mouse. If it doesn't quit raining here, I might float away by May 15th and Then I will just have to do it from a boat. Wouldn't that be fun? So that was a boat club. Also, I know we heard a little bit about the rear Commodore on the first trial, but she used to be the Commodore of this place. That blows my mind. That means like she was involved with the building she ran through. I don't know. But anyway, that is all for me. I will see you guys most likely on Monday at 11:30. I know, especially in this chat. I'm not reading that. Good night, Flash Man. Take care, Haley Mouse. And you too, Zach. Yes, thank you for the 15-minute visit. But I'll be back Monday. We are going to get through this Warnos trial. Come hell or high water, and high water might come first for me, but we're gonna do it because we can. We have to see it through. And then I don't know what we're gonna do after that, but we'll figure that out too. We're almost done. We're almost done. Yes, if you haven't already, I think everybody pretty much has, but if you haven't already, please hit that like button on your way out. Good night, Zach. In the U.S. Oh, yeah, Bri, you would know about this. In the U.S. Navy, Commodore is the rear admiral. Well, she was the rear Commodore testified on the first day. And then this guy said that she used to be the Commodore of this place. And I was trying to figure out what the Commodore did. I found the Commodore of a yacht club, but that didn't seem like something she would do. So I think a boat club and a yacht club are not going to have the same rules. And then I had to start the stream. I ran out of time, but rear, lower, whatever. But yeah, so she used to be the Commodore of this place, which sounds like it was kind of a big deal. Hell and high water. You went to school with Hell and high water? I won't say the rest of that. Oh, Pedaltown. Yeah, I should do Robert Bardo so you don't have to. Well, okay. Maybe. I won't take your stuff, Flash Man. All right, I'm done. I'm out. Going. I was trying to see if I didn't have some motorboating there. On that note, we're done. All right, guys. Have a great weekend if I don't see you before then, which I probably will not. Be safe. You know, do good things. Be nice. And I'll see you guys Monday morning back with the crazy Eileen. Till then, see you later.
Oh, the sun shines piercing through, chasing clouds, the skies are blue. Laughter's drifting on the air. Spring begins so bright and fair. Tiny blossoms holding tight, burst like smiles to greet the light. Every moment feels brand new, fresh beginnings shining through.